Instagram, wow.
This video is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Stick around to hear more about their special offer for the entire Upper Echelon community. Also, limited edition merchandise, only available for another 6 days, so grab one if you want before the holidays. Who remembers the original PlayStation?
Oh, I do.
YouTube gives me a pretty comprehensive spread of analytics on who watches these videos, so I know for a fact that most of you are men ages 18 to 45, which means a lot of you probably remember the original PlayStation, or at least the original Xbox. For me, it was PlayStation, then PlayStation 2, then Xbox 360, then PS4, then Xbox One. I still haven't actually gotten a current generation console myself because, I don't know, I just don't see a reason yet, but that's the history of my console ownership as far back as it goes.
Just PC's better.
One of the games I played the most was Andretti Racing on the original PlayStation, right in the background right now. Funnily enough, my favorite game was published by Electronic Arts, if you can believe that.
Because Electronic Arts was not always evil.
The world of video games at large over the past 25 or so years has completely changed. For clarity, not all video games currently fall prey to this. However, a larger than ever cross-section of them do, which has turned the space from a hobby-driven world of pure entertainment to a psychological maze of extremely predatory tactics.
Man, this is going to be very, very timely because of the DBD exclusive cosmetic situation that's going on. A lot of people are really, really upset that the recently released holiday cosmetics are actually limited time and will go away, and they have not given us a time when they'll bring them back. So they're kind of like preying on exclusivity and a limited time to make you spend more money, which a lot of other gaming companies do, but Behavior's never done that. So that's it's shocking a lot of people, disappointing a lot of people. So maybe this was a timely video to watch.
About this, nor am I the first person who has even done so, but as the trend continues relatively unchecked, it seems like as good a time as any to once again examine where mainstream gaming has come from, where it currently is, and where it appears to be going. Without further ado, let's get started. The early 2000s, in my opinion, were the golden years of gaming. Call it nostalgia, call it rose-tinted glasses, I don't care, because it's true. Video games were objectively superior before the age of dynamic difficulty, psychological manipulation, and predatory monetization.
Yeah.
Now, to be clear, once again, this is not true of the entire
because
industry.
because gaming in general, like video games in general weren't incredibly popular. Incredibly popular like they are now. Even Joe Schmo Chad, who like he just graduated high school and he's a dude, bro. You know, like he plays COD, right? Like even if he plays no other games, he might own Madden, maybe. He might own FIFA, but like dude, bro's like the most generic non-gamer dude probably plays COD at the very least, right? Like gaming is pretty common, even with even with normal people who have no interest in gaming, right? So like it's a different world now, but back then the only way you sold your game is if it was good. Like if your game was bad, nobody bought your game. So they didn't there was no you couldn't pull sneaky stuff because if your game wasn't good, it just didn't sell because the gaming population itself was just not as popularized, right?
However, the number of companies who actively engage in these practices over the past 15 to 20 years has only ever grown. And when mainstream publishers are responsible for a rapidly increasing market share of popular game releases, well, that's pretty self-explanatory. Certain
blasted.
titles like Elden Ring or God of War, as a couple of examples, still conform to what seems like a dying business model. Make a game, make it good, release it, make some money. And those games are incredibly successful as a result.
Yeah, that happened recently with Callisto Protocol, right? Its port was sloppy and broken. Right? Now people are actually playing it on PS5 and actually saying, they're like, hey, no, this game's actually really, really good. But everybody has such a negative opinion of the game because the PC port was terrible. Terrible. They just released it and said, we'll fix it later. Right? Yeah, especially Fallout 76. Fallout 76 was a great example of that. Just release it broken and we'll fix it later. And it's just it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. There's no excuse for that stuff.
People crave what used to be. Straightforward, fair, well understood, and commonly accepted. However, lately, an ever-growing cross-section of video games have become something else entirely. Alright, before going further, let's talk about today's video sponsor, which is Bespoke Post.
Wow.
This might actually be the perfect sponsor for the channel, and when I say perfect, I mean quite literally the perfect company to partner with. Why? Because I've been using Bespoke Post on my own for well over a year before they ever even knew this channel existed, and it's fantastic. It's funny because the very specific sponsorship brief requires that you use some of the products, which they send you for that reason, but I've effectively been using their products since last year for a multitude of reasons, because the monthly box that they send is, in fact, excellent. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering a box of top-shelf goods from excellent under-the-radar brands. Most of what they send comes from small brands, many of which are based in the United States. It's free to join, you can cancel anytime or skip a month whenever you feel like. Here's an example box I got from them called Terra, which contains a knife trowel made by Bare Bones based in Salt Lake City. Every month they introduce you to new options from outdoor gear to barware, kitchen goods, clothing, even live oysters. Boxes contain about $70 worth of quality goods.
You had me there until the oysters.
A fraction of that price, and you can preview your box before it's shipped every month, opting to keep it, swap it, or skip it. I myself have received well over a dozen of these independent from the sponsorship, and it's very hard to choose a favorite. Just today, I actually used the Terra knife to pull this giant bull thistle out of my yard, and it's not the first time. With one of the boxes from a while ago, I scrimshawed my logo into a bone-handled knife. How cool is that? Yet another package had a wallet and a flask that I got quite a bit of usage out of, and the list goes on because their list of boxes is enormous and their product quality is excellent. To get 20% off your first box, click the link down below in the description and enter code UEG20 at checkout, or go to bespokepost.com.
So you can pick what you're interested in. Okay.
Again, link down below in the description.
I was like, why would I get all these things in the same box?
20% off your first box today. Big thank you to them for sponsoring the channel. Candy Crush. For some, it's not even a video game that qualifies as anything other than a joke, but when tens of millions of people play the game daily around the world, it certainly qualifies as something, and serves as a pretty good example of how industry psychology has changed. Now, side note here, Candy Crush was originally published by King Digital, which was acquired by Activision Blizzard in 2015. That's important because Activision Blizzard is a main stage culprit in the world.
We have a crusher in chat.
But for right now, we will stay focused on Candy Crush alone. I probably don't need to even say this, but Candy Crush is a basic match 3 puzzle game that has you destroying little blocks of candy in order to complete levels. It's innocent, fun, and colorful, but what if I told you that Candy Crush has more in common with a slot machine than it does with any other existing entertainment product in the world? That assertion probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense on its face, so let me explain here. Slot machines are predicated on the idea of winning money, which Candy Crush is not, but both of these games are built around the illusion of control. For slot machines, sometimes you get to press a button and stop the wheels, or choose how many lines to play or how much to bet per line, with a wide range of other trivial selections that make it seem like you are somehow in control of the outcome, at least moderately. In reality, you have no control over the outcome whatsoever, and simply engage with a randomized computer terminal that will, on average, spit out less money than users put in. Illusion of control is a well-documented phenomenon in pathological gamblers. It's not very well hidden in standard slot machines, but for Candy Crush, it is extremely well hidden. Most players will assume that their decisions matter. You, the player, choose which bricks to move, and can easily construct a series of sequential matches that give you, say, a power-up or a bonus. But when levels are constructed to require maybe 30 different blocks be destroyed, some of them multiple times, like jellies or candy canes, or these things that you have to hit multiple times before they disappear, your individual decisions need to be made within an overarching reality. That reality? The candies you receive, all of them, when they come in from above the screen, are randomized. While Candy Crush does an incredible job of tricking its players into believing that their actions matter, the reality is that you are subjected to a computer program determining which colors come next, and very often, no decision that you make
the house always wins
can result in a win.
Of
course, there is a degree of flexibility here where perhaps you had one move that would have destroyed more blocks and resulted in a win, but you simply missed it. However, the sad reality is that very often, nothing you did, could have done, or will do results.
But that misses the point, Bowie. Like, it doesn't, like, nobody's gonna watch you play Candy Crush. Like, it's not like a gaming thing. It's just incredibly popular and casual. It's something you just pull up on your phone, right? It's something you just pull up on your phone and you're just like, okay, I'm vibing. You know, it's like it's not a stream thing. It's like, it's just turn your brain off, get a distraction and vibe, right? And in that aspect, it's more popular than any like good game could be, because it's readily available as that illusion of control, like he was talking about, and it's in your hand. It's in the palm of your hand. You could put it on your phone anytime.
Win, because the blocks being dispersed to you from the top down over the course of the level simply do not allow for a series of moves that would fulfill the level's win condition. That right there is the illusion of control that slot machines use, with incredible efficacy I might add, to manipulate and retain players, but it gets worse. In tandem to this illusion is a phenomenon called near misses, where a slot machine will display, let's say, 4 out of 5 jackpot markers, while the 5th row is a 0. Yep. This is called a near miss because just one more winning marker would supposedly have paid out big. Yep. However, the only measurable effect of this, given that it does not increase the likelihood of winning on future spins, that's just not a statistical reality, is that gamblers are much more likely to continue playing after near misses. Yep. The dopamine hit from winning on a slot machine pull is a massive part of its addictive nature. Sure, money is a root cause behind why that dopamine hit can be so powerful. I mean,
I do this all the time in, like, not in a gambling sense, but, like, what is my favorite thing to do in DBD? I play really hard precision killers. I play, like, Huntress, Billy. What's my favorite perk on the Survivor side right now? Well, currently it's Fogwise, but I always run Dead Hard, right? Because the thrill of hitting a Dead Hard is really, really fun. It's really, really good. But you know, like what we were talking about in the last video? Dead Hard isn't validated anymore. How many times do I just get slapped onto the ground? I guarantee if I actually took it and actually measured how much times I actually got, like, Dead Hard value match to match, I guarantee you I would probably have, like, only, like, 30% of my Dead Hards actually work. If you actually go back and watch the stream start to finish, I guarantee you only, like, 30-40% of my Dead Hards actually work. But those moments where I can trick a killer into hitting me right before I vault a window, and I get that, and I can chain a tile, feels great. Feels awesome. So even though, theoretically, I'm probably only getting value out of it, like, 30-40% of the time, I bring it every match because those short times that it actually works gives me dopamine. Unfortunately, that illusion's starting to go away with Billy. Billy's another good example. You know, like hitting that curve, hitting a spicy curve feels so good. It's probably one of the best feeling things in this game. But how often do I actually do that? 20% of the time, probably. You watch most of my Billy matches, it's mostly just goobers running up and pre-dropping pallets in my face. Those spicy curves don't happen that often, but I keep playing them. Billy's still my secondary. I still play him a lot. Even if, like, the thing that actually makes me happy doesn't really happen that often. The thing. Hey, Pitchy, how's it going? How are you, friend?
Reaction to near misses will continually reinforce that initial behavior through psychological and chemical payouts in the brain. Yep. And Candy Crush, according to research from the Journal of Gambling Studies, has the exact same properties and effects. Near misses in Candy Crush, which occur quite frequently, are when you have maybe 2 more jellies to destroy and no more moves. You almost won, but you didn't, and you've tried this level, let's say, 4 times already. What is the impact? A cycle of reinforced addiction built on the dopamine rush of near misses after you engage with a system built on the illusion of control, aka a slot machine without the money. You can pay more money to access the dopamine hit more frequently through power-ups and additional lives, but Candy Crush is a slot machine that doesn't even pay its players, while using all of the same addictive tactics to hook them when compared to standard slots. Whether or not you consider Candy Crush, with something like 93 million daily active players, to be indicative of the wider...
Yeah, Bowie was like, oh, they only have 7% of people watching, like 7 viewers on Twitch. They have 93 million people playing! 93 million! 93 million people. 93 million people daily. Good God. I think the best game on the planet wouldn't pull those numbers. Like an objectively flawless game could not pull those numbers. Oh my God.
Gaming industry is up to you, but the fact remains, it is built to be as predatory as possible, using the very same tactics as a...
your answer, your grandma's literally, it's like, that's what they say, is like I was kind of alluding to it earlier, it's like even like Chad, who just graduated high school, and he's a dude bro, and he's going into business in the nearest school, community college, like, he plays COD at the very least, right? But everyone has this console. Everybody has this console. Everybody has this console. This thing right here, Let me swipe away that message so I'm not revealing it. Pertinent information. Everybody has this console. Everyone has this console. Everyone has it. I have games on my phone. I don't really play them anymore. Pogo? I used to love Pogo. Pokemon Go. I have that. Maybe that's all I have. I used to play more games, but yeah. Play Pokemon Go. It's free, and it's on my phone. Everybody has a phone. You're bored, go find a game on the Play Store. Literally. Because this is a console that you have at any time. No matter what. No matter what. I used to be a big Temple Runner. I love Temple Run. Temple Run made me so happy. I played Temple Run all the way until early college. Played it all through high school. Until the battery dies, true, but that's, you know, depending on the quality of the phone. But hey, Blood Oats. Hopefully you're doing well. Flappy Bird, yeah. Yeah, Temple Run was fun. I like Temple Run. I liked playing Temple Run. But, yeah, it's like... It's so available that, like, even, like, your aunt and your grandma are in this gaming sphere. And it's like... Not everybody has, like, the newest console. A lot of people don't even, like, have not even attempted to get the new, like, PS5 and stuff. Everybody's got the phone. So that on top of the predatory tactics, it's double whammy.
Casino. How about another example? Match 3 puzzle games are not necessarily indicative of video games for most people that watch this channel, so let's move on to a pair of major publishers. Activision Blizzard, the owners of Candy Crush as well, and Electronic
Arts. Love that company.
Activision
Kappa.
Blizzard is a perfect example
too,
for a host of reasons, but one of those reasons is a patent they hold for a system that, quote, drives microtransactions in multiplayer video games. The system may include a microtransaction arrange matches to influence game-related purchases. For example, the system may match a more expert/marquee player with a junior player to encourage the junior player to make game-related purchases of items possessed/used by the marquee player. A junior player may wish to emulate the marquee player by obtaining...
Do you think DBD doesn't do this? Do you think DBD doesn't do this? You're wrong. Not this exact patent, but look. I'm playing, let's say we're playing Killer, right? You think DBD doesn't do this? Let's say I'm playing, like I just started the game. What, you have all the way through... Does Doctor come with the game? I don't know. You already have all the way through Huntress, I know that for sure. So I'm playing, like... Let's say I'm playing good old Trapper. He's the first guy I see, right? And I'm a brand new player. And I'm gonna play the first guy I see. I'm gonna play Trapper. I have Agitation, I have Brutal Strength, and I have, maybe I have Sloppy already, because I've spent, like, you know, I have Sloppy. I've spent a blood point or two. Because I played maybe Survivor for a game or two. Let's see. What even is his final perk? I always forget. Unnerving Presence, that's what it is. So useless that, I didn't even remember existence. So like, let's say like I just started playing DBD and I'm like, I want to play Trapper, right? Because Trapper's the first character I see. He shuts down loops. That sounds cool. And I'm going to use his 3, you know, perks that come with him. And then like, you know, I got Sloppy. It's a general perk. And I go into my matches and I'm losing a lot, right? And I kind of feel bad. I keep playing the game. I keep trying to get better, but I keep losing. And I start feeling really garbage. I start feeling really crappy. I'm gonna start looking at like my perks, right? Like what can I equip instead to be better? And there you don't have a lot of options. You have like Unrelenting as a rare perk, Whispers, like you don't have a lot of options. I guess I could start putting a lot of points into Billy and maybe get like Enduring, I guess, right? Like I could get like Enduring Tinkerer maybe. But I don't have a whole lot of options, right? Like the only like slowdown that I would get is if I started putting points in Nurse, and I would have Thana, but Thana doesn't matter anymore unless you get like 4 people injured, which is not going to be happening with Trapper. So I'm going to be struggling. I'm going to be struggling a lot. I'm going to feel bad. Who am I going to buy? I'm going to buy Pinhead, right? Because who has 3 really good perks, 2 of them being true slowdown and 1 being kind of like a pseudo slowdown? I'm going to buy Pinhead, right? Because I'm gonna get really good slowdown. I'm gonna get bang for my buck. I might buy Artist. Comes with the strongest slowdown perk in the game. Well, that's arguable now because of Eruption. but I get one of the strongest slowdown perks in the game, a very, very, very strong slowdown perk in Penamento, and a slowdown perk that's not really good, but 3 slowdown perks, right? Because of the fact that Trapper comes with, like, jack all or nothing, I am now going to probably purchase Artist or Cenobite because their teachables will win the game for me. We had that Artist game with that, Artist where she won solely based off of the slowdown perks that she had. Those were all teachables. All teachables. Those were all teachables. None of those were general perks in the game. She won solely based off her slowdown perks. She didn't win. Her perks did. She didn't win that game. She played that game like garbage. But she won because her perks were good. It's that illusion of control. She thinks she did something good. She thinks she won that match. But really, she just had the right teachables. She bought the right characters. And that is money in behavior's pocket. That is money in behavior's pocket. And that's why you guys get, like, really confused when they're like, man, why if we have Overcharge, Colubrine, Eruption, a very, very obnoxious killer meta based around kicking gens and getting a lot of slowdown for free, would they ever think that releasing a perk around getting info around kicking a gen would be a good idea? That's obviously going to synergize a lot and cause a lot more distress. That's the point. Because they want you to buy it and have that. They want you to buy it and have that. When the community keeps outcrying how much they hate anti-chase killers, and they release probably like a character that I would consider probably top 5 in the game with a very, very strong anti-chase ability, why would they ever do that? Why would that? We have clearly said anti-chase is kind of lame. Why would you keep making killers like that? Because you have to buy this guy. You guys have seen his BS hitbox. He hits people way outside his hitbox all the time. It's very hard to dodge him. But you know what that makes it feel like? It makes it feel like you, when you're playing Wesker, you're winning. That you're doing it. That you're the one winning the game. That you're the one performing well. Even though it may not be you. It just may be he's a very, very, very good character that's not really that hard to learn. But if you play Wesker and you win a lot of your matches, your brain says, I'm doing good. And this is the purchasable content. Whether you're getting the 3 teachables from Artist or Cenobite, or you're just buying outright a very, very good character in Wesker. Even though those things kind of ideally aren't really you. Like, you're controlling them, but a lot of the things that are happening in the game are kind of just happening. They're not really you, necessarily. It makes you feel like it's you. And that's what feels good. $200 in the strongest. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, the only reason, like, not the only reason, I will give myself, I'm okay at the game. I'm okay. Like, I'm all right. But, like, a lot of the reasons I win my matches is because, like, I have availability of all perks. So I can just run whatever I need. So, yeah, if you don't think behavior does the same thing, where they very much, like, lock, like, good perks behind paywalls and force you to get them in order to have consistent results, they definitely do. They do those things. It may not be as malicious and, well, it's kind of malicious. It is just malicious. It may not be as overt and as out in front as a lot of, like, microtransactions, like, say, mobile games are. But it's the same thing. It's pay to win. It's pay to win. And that hurts.
Weapons or other items used by the marquee player. End quote. That was a lot, I
hey,
know.
So
in simple terms, that means that they will put a novice or a newbie versus an expert, so that the novice will buy in-game purchases in order to be able to compete.
Do you think DBD doesn't do that either? Do you think DBD doesn't do that either? This is tinfoil hat territory for me. But do you think possibly that the MMR system's intentionally stupid? Like, it intentionally doesn't work sometimes? Not like sometimes, but I mean, like, it's intentionally kind of flawed on purpose. Because, like, if you get matched up against a really, really strong survivor group a lot, once again, what are you going to do? You're going to go looking for who has the teachables that you want, that you see, like, you're going to go look up a killer build on YouTube. You see Otts or someone running, like, a bunch of really, really strong perks. You're going to look at who has those perks and probably buy them. So it's very possible that, you know, this is a thing that, you know, maybe the MMR doesn't work on purpose. You know, because, you know, technically, if If you're getting matched up with the wrong people, you may be more coerced to run stronger stuff, and that stronger stuff you usually have to buy. Something to think about.
The expert is obviously better or has spent more money. That is about as direct as you could possibly be, and indicates that they are perfectly fine with totally destroying the concept of a level playing field in order to sell more in-game items.
Yep.
Still, another reason would be Diablo Immortal. The Diablo franchise is a long-cherished video game property developed by Blizzard, under the banner of Activision Publishing. And yet, instead of prioritizing what people really want, the decision was made to reformat the game for mobile devices. Josh Strife Hayes has an incredible video on Diablo Immortal, I'll link it down below in the description, but the gist of it is that players would need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to obtain even just some of the legendary gear. That kind of monetization simply didn't exist 10 or 15 years ago.
Not exaggerating.
The idea that a game would have this kind of paywall to access appealing content was just frankly unheard of in 2010 or even 2005, but Diablo Immortal is not alone, and certainly not the first culprit. Electronic Arts, another example famously used by everyone demonstrating how far modern gaming has fallen, also holds a patent, this one aimed at dynamic difficulty. Quote, "Embodiments of systems presented herein may perform automatic granular difficulty adjustment. In some embodiments, the difficulty adjustment is undetectable by a user.
Yep.
Further, embodiments of systems disclosed herein can review historical user activity data with respect to one or more video games to generate a game retention prediction model that predicts an indication of an expected duration of gameplay." End quote. The language in these patents is always way overly technical. But
Diddy? That doesn't
this
surprise
patent
me.
outlines a system where EA can adjust how player characters perform in-game without
That's a whole rabbit hole. We're not going to cover that here.
Aiming, jumping, anything really, and maximize player retention by, once again, destroying the concept of a level playing field. They swear up and down that this is not being used in competitive games, but the mere existence of a system like that, which will also take into consideration how much money you have spent as it manipulates the game's functionality behind the scenes, multiple sections pertain to that directly. The mere
it hasn't been gutted because it comes down to the fact that this is the hard truth about it, is that like unless it's to blame things on violent video games, general society just kind of pretends video games don't exist. Video games is just kind of seen as like a very like stupid like basement dwelling nerd kind of like hobby still by most of the general population. Like unless it's like your dude bro Chad who plays COD, like he doesn't really consider, like I said, he doesn't really consider himself a gamer. He just plays COD or he just plays FIFA. And FIFA's just like, if you're playing like FIFA or Madden, you're just using it as an extension of your love for sports, which is more socially acceptable, right? Or like, for example, even COD, I would say COD is your love for like war and like traditional values, right? Which is more like socially accepted by like the general population, right? But if you play like Elden Ring or like Dead by Daylight, for example, like you're kind of weird, right? Are you a nerd? You like medieval things? Wow, you like horror movies? That's kind of weird, right? So like unless it's to bring up, you know, oh well, violent video games are causing people to do bad things, which is not substantiated. It's not true. If anything, it's been proven that people feel less violent because, you know, they like the things they do in violent video games are like a weird sense of like, no, this is just silly, right? Like this is silly to me. Like this is just silliness. This is something that like I would never do in real life because it just happens in this game, right? Like it's been proven the opposite. But like other than bringing it up for that dumb argument, people just kind of like to pretend video games aren't really a thing, especially like congressmen, especially lawmakers, Like fucking even in like Hollywood, for example, like the celebrities that everybody like looks up to and like always keeping tabs of. There's so few like gamers in that realm. Like Henry Cavill, like people love him to death because he's a gamer. Because it's wild. It's rare. Everybody's like, whoa, dude, you like Warhammer? You've played all the Witcher games? You like WoW? He skipped an audition for some role because he was playing. He had a raid with his friends in WoW. like no shot. He literally skipped an audition he had for something because he had to raid with his friends in WoW. But but people swarm him for that, right? He's also really handsome, of course. But like people swarm him because they're like gamer, but also actor. Wow, you know. It's actually really weird how much of the people quote unquote in power in our society just like don't acknowledge video games as an existence. So weird stuff like this can happen and nobody's going to care. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So this kind of system is deeply troubling. Still, there's more to discuss with EA and more even specifically inside FIFA. It turns out that Ultimate Team icons, for those familiar with FIFA, that's basically
hey, FIFA, we're just talking about that.
Players, some of them anyway, are so rare, impactful, and sought after, with limited availability, that an EA employee was facilitating a black market cash economy. Well, according to speculative reports, EA says that they investigated, and then I never really heard anything else about it, but from everything that we can see, it highly seems to be that an EA employee was facilitating a black market cash economy to sell in-game items, in this case players, to users. That kind of economy simply does not and cannot exist inside of traditional video game products. Because traditional video game products with just a price tag, and then you get the game.
You imagine that? You imagine that? Creating this really, really rigged gambling system, and then you as a dev on the other side are trying to, like, essentially, like, help them circumvent their BS gambling system and forcing people to pay to circumvent your BS gambling system. That's evil. That is textbook, like, greed the sin. That is actually evil. That is predatory and evil. My God.
Are not designed to be an addictive, never-ending money pit. The psychology of video games on a AAA level has changed massively over the past 2 decades. It's not every publisher. Companies like Nintendo still come to mind as an example where the old ways have not yet fully died, but enough major franchises have gone
But even then, we talked about how they released Scarlet and Moon. Scarlet and Violet, rather. Sorry. Almost said Sun and Moon got mixed in there. Scarlet and Violet, they released it in a completely broken, buggy state. Not completely, like, it was playable, but it was like, it was a mess, right? It was like Cyberpunk levels of, like, what the heck is going on? Even Nintendo's starting to fall to that. Like, just release it and fix it later. Who cares? Just crazy, because Nintendo, no matter how you feel about Nintendo really has kind of been really traditional with how they have gone about producing and making games. Very traditional. And even then, they kind of just went like, okay, well, we'll just release it and fix it later. It's not a good sign. It's really not.
To create an air of uncertainty about which one will
fall. No, you're not. I also agree with you. Like, I don't like live model games. Like, it's cool that DBD releases new killers a bunch and stuff, but if I'm being honest, like, I like DBD a lot. I appreciate it a lot. It's not my top 10 games. It's probably my top 15. All my top 10 games are like Witcher 3, Resident Evil 1, Fallout, New Vegas, you know, like the Forest, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, like games that you can fully complete and finish. And all the content is there. And if they add stuff, it's just fun DLC. It's an addition to the game. It's not like Blood and Wine and Witcher was so fun. Heart of Stone was so great. With Fallout New Vegas, like all that DLC that came with that game, like it's an addition to what's happening. Dark Souls DLCs are great. Dark Souls 2, the DLC literally makes the game. The DLC for Dark Souls 2 actually is the best content in the game, which is crazy. Like, you know, like, no, those are my favorite games. And I think that speaks. DLC after DLC, a money pit in advance. Yeah, true. There was still the fruits of that. Like, there was expansions. That was mostly on PC gaming. Like, you would have to buy expansions. I remember that was the thing with, like, a bunch of the Tycoon games. You had to buy expansions. But, yeah. It's the cards merch. Yeah, it's a money line thing. You're right, Otero. Don't want to buy $50 worth of DLC? Yep. Yeah.
Next. As the mechanical foundation of gaming changes, morphing and twisting into something more akin to slot machines or traditional gambling than hobby entertainment, there is a noticeable lapse in relative enforcement. Last example, which I didn't even think to include.
Yeah, and some of that was like a good thing, and that's where some of that was a good thing, Reaper, and some of that was a bad thing. Sorry that I keep pausing the video if you guys are interested. But like, where Reaper said is like, remember you buy a hard copy of a game and that game was done, no more patches, that's what you got? Yep. So, like, they would literally, like, they would have to make whole new editions of the game in order to, like, make patches, which they did very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. Very, very rarely. Like, there'd be, like, a normal version of the game, there'd be a long box version of the game that was, like, harder, but, like, patches weren't really a thing. Now, that's a double-edged sword, right? Because, like, for example, like, with fighting games, like, in Third Strike, Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, the meta is how it is forever. People play that game competitively on world stages, that meta stuck forever. I like Alex in that game. I think he's fun. I don't play him in that game. You know why? Because he's terrible, and he will always be terrible. He will never be good, and that will never change. If I want to play that game, I need to get good at Makoto. Good thing I could do like Makoto as well. But I can never play Alex in a tournament. Never, because that game's hard stuck. It's never going to get changed because you can't patch an old game. Thankfully, we live in an era now where like we patch things that are stupid, and we've had that a lot with Dead by Daylight. We were talking about old Dead Hard. Old Dead Hard needed to go. Imagine if we were hard stuck with old Dead Hard for the rest of our existence. Some of you said you were ready to quit over old Dead Hard. You would have been gone. You would have been playing this game. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, you know? There's positives, but there's also a lot of negatives.
Still almost halfway through the script, but yeah, it's a pretty good one. According to Regulation 14.040 of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, quote, all gaming devices must theoretically pay out a mathematically demonstrable percentage of all amounts wagered, which must not be less than 75% for each wager available for play on the device. B, determine game outcomes solely by the application of chance, the skill of the player, or a combination of the skill of the player and chance, display in an accurate and non-misleading manner the rules of play, the amount required to wager on the game or series of games in a gaming session, the amount to be paid on winning wagers, any rake-off percentage or any fee charged to play the game or series of games in a gaming session, any monetary wagering limits for games representative of live gambling games, the total amount wagered by the player, the game outcome, and such additional information sufficient for the player to reasonably understand the game outcome.
Yeah, and Witchy, with what you said, like, thinking specifically with like the kind of like full games that you guys were talking about, like great, like they're not fully gone. Like a great example is Elden Ring. Elden Ring released with pretty strong stuttering issues, not as bad as Callisto Protocol, but like loading between areas was like bad when the game first came out, and they fixed it in like a patch. Like it was like immediate. Not immediate, like day one, but like, you know, like they fixed it pretty quickly. And then the game's just good now, right? Right? Like, it's not that hard, right? It's really not that hard.
End quote. That was a lot, I know. That kind of rambled on, but bear with me, because as demonstrated by researcher Jeremy Ray, CSGO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, a massively popular video game on Steam, in its loot crates, which is a form of gambling, definitively tied to real-world cash through the Steam marketplace itself and third-party exchange platforms as well, has an RTP, return to player, that is effectively half of the mandatory minimums in practically every single part of the world.
Wow.
Basically, video games, at the very least a hefty chunk of video games, have adopted predatory psychological manipulation tactics and gambling infrastructure without any of the comparable regulation that exists elsewhere. And in fact, if you compare them directly to like the Las Vegas Strip, they're worse. It's not a new concept, but having recently had a bit of a reason to explore the reality behind Candy Crush, it felt like a topic worth discussing and once again reiterating. In essence, be extremely aware of what your children are doing online and also what they're doing in video games.
Yep.
And for certain examples of those games, understand that addictive personality types are especially vulnerable here because many
I'm going to say this in regards to DBD and in regards to this. Don't, like expect that they will probably buff the Knight. Expect they will buff the Knight. You may be thinking like, well, he's not fun to play against. So why would they do that? It's like, if their sales for the Knight aren't good, they want him to get bought. So, don't be surprised if they buff him soon. If you're one of those people that hates fighting a Knight, I got bad news for you. They're probably going to buff him. Because they want them to buy it. So even if it's not good for the game or good for the community, they'll do it.
Designed in a very deliberate way so as to directly prey on those psychological vulnerabilities. For a brief period of time in the aftermath of Electronic Arts mutilating their Star Wars license with Battlefront 2, we did have regulation in the works around the globe, at least in a lot of different countries and different legislatures, but that wave has since died down dramatically, and it's unclear what it would take to rekindle the fire. For me, it's a topic I've cared about since basically the channel was founded, but so far there is very little that has been done or even can be done to reverse or stop the trend.
Yep.
It's kind of a losing battle at this stage. It just keeps happening and we get to watch it. But yeah, as a result, I rant and I rave, but that's about it. If you want to support, please check out the links down below. Obviously, merchandise, again, only 6 days left. The video sponsor, or locals and Patreon, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.
Yeah, you guys think that You guys think for a second that like behavior's not like wrapped up in doing a lot of this stuff? They really are too. And it's just like I think like them making the cosmetic exclusives, the limited times, like with the Halloween one with like Dwight and Jane, and now with the winter ones, that they're taking their piece of the cake. And I think that like in general, like, they've kind of always done this, you know, like, with many games, it's like, pay to win, right? You buy the specific killers or survivors for the teachables that help you win the game more. And that's, in a sense, is, like, a very upsetting, like, practice in itself. But now they're starting to get into, you know, the very much more greedy aspect of it is, like, we're just making timed exclusives now. So, it's kind of sad to see, you know, this is just a thing in gaming in general. But it's sad to see, like, our game kind of, like, start getting, like, thrown in and mixed up and that sort of thing. In how much of a precedent it has in the gaming community. Is just gambling with none of the regulations? Yeah. And that's how people do it, right? Like, you find the loopholes. You find the legal loopholes. Right? Like, a good example. A good example is Japan. Pachinko machines? Japan is very strict. Japan is a very, very, like, traditional country with very intense... They very intensely care about their values, some of which are very bad. Very, very bad. Very, very bad. Japan is behind on a lot of things, especially, most specifically, social issues. But, they also care a lot about, like, for example, because, like gambling. Gambling is something that, you know, is seen as very, very wrong and terrible, so, like... They crack down hard on that. But pachinko machines are a funny way around it. But they do, and it's blown up, you guys see? Like it's literally like it's blown up. It's super popular. We even have pachinko machines like if you go to your local mall, like it's possible that you'll have a pachinko machine. I've seen one before. It is so popular that it's almost like a cultural thing. Like it's like a mark of like, hey, they have this Japanese thing here, right? They have this machine, right? It's becoming like almost identifiable with the country, which is crazy that they're that much against greed and gambling, but like that loophole has become so popular, which is crazy, absolutely crazy. So I don't know. It's just. It's nutty. It's absolutely nutty. So, yeah, it's disappointing, and it'll keep happening as long as it works, right? It's like on a much more smaller and non-serious scale. It's like, why do people run 3 or 4 slowdown? Why do people gen rush? Because it gets the dub, right? It's dumb, it's boring, but it wins. Same thing why people keep doing this in video games. Why? Because it gets you money. It makes money. Why would you do that? It's evil. It's taking advantage of people with gambling problems. But it makes me money. As long as it gets as long as it gets results, it'll keep happening. And unfortunately, like I was talking about earlier, especially in America, like I don't know, they don't take gaming very seriously as just like a thing, much less people being negatively affected by gaming, unless it falls into their loop, their occasional violence in video games is causing all the world's problems, you know. Unless they're talking about that, they don't care about what. They don't care if like video games were plotting to take over the planet. They don't care. They'll ignore them. They will ignore them. They will ignore them. So, much less gamers in trouble or gamers being preyed upon, they're definitely not going to care about that. Definitely not going to care about that.